On Talking with Dr. Donna, we focus on 4 pillars of health to help build a generational health network to end the cycle of premature death in the Black community. I created Talking with Dr. Donna as a way to educate as many people as possible and give accurate information from a trusted physician. Go to Talking with Dr. Donna and get accurate information. And then share that information with your family and friends. And if you like what you see, like my channel and subscribe. Remember, every Thursday, keep your appointment with Dr. Donna. Hey, good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Season 4 of Talking with Dr. Donna. I am your host, Dr. Donna White Carey, and this is Talking with Dr. Donna. You have an appointment with your doctor every Thursday at 6:30 p.m., so thank you so much for keeping your appointment tonight. If you have not already done so, I would appreciate if you go to my YouTube channel. If you're watching on some other channel, go over to my YouTube channel and hit subscribe. There are just really 2 request that I have of you as I do this show, and that is number 1, that you go to my YouTube channel and you subscribe, and number 2 is that you would share this message and share the information you learned tonight with others around you. This is how you can keep in touch with me. You can go to my website, mydrdonna.com. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and let me know what you think about my show. Let me know if you have any show topics that you are interested in learning about. As always, we are live tonight, and so if you have any questions, you can always put them in the chat. I see you. Hey, Cherise. Hey, Ricardo. Hey, Elisita. I see you. Let me know if you have any questions about tonight. So tonight is going to be a little bit of a hybrid show in that what we're talking about tonight, we've talked about before, but I thought that the way in which our guest, Dr. Hargrave, spoke about it previously, that it was worth repeating, particularly because of the month that we are in, which is November. So November is National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And here on Talking with Dr. Donna, we are here because we're building a generational health network. That means we are looking at our ages from birth all the way up until we end our lives. And our goal and mission is to end the cycle of premature death in communities across the African diaspora, starting here in America and across the diaspora. And so a part of generational health is our older generation. You may be wondering, Dr. Donna, what else is generational health? Like, really, what is generational health? I am so glad that you are asking that question. So if you want to know what generational health is, watch this video. There are 4 pillars to generational health. The first is emotional and mental health. So we talk about the connection between the mind, the body, it's all connected. The second pillar is spiritual health. That is also talking about the connection of the spirit to our bodies, how we feel, and understanding that there is a higher power. And studies show if you believe that there is a higher power, whatever you call that higher power, this is not about religion. It's about the connection to the spirit within each and every one of us. The third pillar is physical health. The fourth pillar is environmental health, and that really focuses in on the importance of our air, the soil, the places where we live, and how that impacts our health. Those are the 4 pillars of generational health, and I'm building a network of organizations and people to help build up each of those pillars, and that end the cycle of premature death in the Black community. No one talks about generational health, the impact that health decisions are made as a child how in this generation then impacts the next generation. Diabetes passed from mom to child to their child, high blood pressure, cancer. I mean, all of these diseases are generational. I can get them, right? Because all of our genes are either turned on to create disease or turned off. And if I make a change in my dietary habits in particular, because that's probably the biggest place, generational health is important that we start with our children because they have the ability to turn that off so that the next successive generations can be on a path of wellness. Then they can make a change for the next 4 generations. All right, so that is what generational health is. There's 4 pillars to our generational health. We have emotional and mental health, spiritual health, physical health, and environmental health. And again, remember, we're focusing in on these 4 pillars of health because I truly believe focusing in on these 4 pillars are going to help us end the cycle of premature death in our community. So tonight we're focusing on one of the kind of a combination of pillars, right? Our emotional and mental health as well as our physical health as we talk about Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And we know that, Alzheimer's disease and dementia, it is impactful to every aspect of the family. And sometimes when you are dealing with a disease such as Alzheimer's or dementia, that it can, that impacts the entire family. It is difficult to figure out, well, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I know if what I'm dealing with is actually something that I need to see a doctor for? And so when we think about this month in November, and we think of as National Alzheimer's Awareness Month and Dementia Awareness Month, we really want to think about, well, what are our risks for dementia? How do we recognize those risks? How do we, more importantly, decrease those risks? And as always, we always talk about what are some of the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's and dementia so that I may even know that I want to see someone and question about whether or not this is Alzheimer's or dementia. So, I do a health tip of the week, and our health tip of the week this week is really talking about some of the early signs of Alzheimer's and dementia. And it's really thinking about memory loss, challenges solving problems, but confusion with time or place, understanding and forgetting sort of relationships between visual images and sort of your spatial relationships. It's misplacing things. It's having poor judgment. It's withdrawing sometimes from social activities, and definitely we see changes in mood and personality. So really big emotional and swings sometimes. But one of the tricky things about Alzheimer's and dementia is that it also could just be older age. Like as you get older, all of us who are getting older can probably recognize that sometimes you just don't quite remember why you walked into a room. Is that early Alzheimer's or dementia, or is that just me getting older? Or you forget the word you're trying to say, or you forget, you put something someplace and you can't really remember where you put it, but you can retrace your steps. Retracing your steps and kind of recognizing, okay, I went to the kitchen and then I went to the bathroom and then I went, as you retrace your steps, then that is kind of more age-related changes to just our brains getting older or us really not paying attention. Very different from looking at whether or not it's Alzheimer's or dementia. So tonight, we're going to talk about that. And we have a short show, so we can't all give you all of the information tonight. So if you have questions about Alzheimer's, if you're wondering whether or not a loved one has Alzheimer's, here's a website. I want you to take it, write it down, take a picture, right now, so you don't have to remember the number, you don't have to remember where you wrote it. Just take a picture right now and be able to call 24/7 to ask for information, more information, to ask for help, to ask for resources, to ask, well, what should we do in this situation? So this is a great resource for you to have and to get more information, because information is the key, and that is what we are sharing here tonight. So before we get again into this interview with Dr. Hargrave, let's talk about what we always do every month. You know, we have a food of the month, and this month in November is no different. Our food of the month this month is pumpkins. Yay! I know we just kind of got over October, Halloween, and you think you can throw your pumpkins out, but this is a good opportunity for you to just use the various parts of pumpkins for many different recipes. So why did we choose pumpkins, you might be asking? What are some of the reasons and the health benefits of pumpkins? So they're rich in minerals, lots of high in potassium, vitamin C, vitamin E, fiber, right? So these are really good binders that are going to help to clear your gut, help with your vision, help with inflammation, help with brain health, help with potassium. It's low calorie. It's got lots of antioxidants, right? So that helps to sort of fight off things like cancer, helps to boost your immune system. And so it just really is a good, healthy food. Lots of ways in which you can eat your pumpkin. You know, I have been in love with one of my favorite Thai restaurants. They do a pumpkin curry. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And you have the pumpkin seeds. So this month, I want you to experiment with pumpkins. Think about some of the ways in which you can eat pumpkins. Use the seeds of the pumpkin, the pulp of the pumpkin, various aspects of it to add to your diet and get some color into your diet and in your food choices, which again helps with cancer and immune system before the end of the month. All right. As always, if you take something, some good food, take a picture, post it on my Facebook or Instagram page. Let us know what you cooked and how you used our food of the month. All right, so as a reminder, there's only 2 asks that I have for this show. One, if you're not already a subscriber to my YouTube channel, and that you go over to YouTube, that you subscribe, then hit that bell icon so that you know every single time we go live, which is when? That's right, keep your appointments on Thursdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then secondly, amplify it. So everything that you learned tonight, share it with someone. Make sure you share the information with your family, your friends, and your loved ones, okay? All right, so let's get into the interview with Dr. Rita Hargrave about the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, and are you at risk of developing Alzheimer's and dementia? I'll give you a hint. The answer is yes. Hi, we are so excited to have a wonderful guest this evening with us on Talking with Dr. Donna, Dr. Rita Hargrave. I'm going to read a little bit of her bio and then we're going to get into our discussion. So Dr. Hargrave is a board-certified geriatric psychiatrist, and we can ask her exactly what that means. She has an extensive clinical experience in consultation liaison psychiatry, adult and geriatric psychiatry, telepsychiatry, and cross-cultural mental health issues. She has published numerous research papers and book chapters focusing on the dynamic interaction of culture, aging, health, and wellness among older adults. She is a highly sought after public speaker, and she has written many different chapters. Her most recent writings will appear in a soon to be released book called Geriatric Mental Health Care: Lessons from a Pandemic. That's exciting. Dr. Hargrave received her biology degree from Harvard University, and that's a bachelor's of science, and then went to Howard University to complete her medical doctorate degree, and then moved out here from DC to the Bay Area to complete her residency, so at California Pacific Medical Center. So let's welcome Dr. Rita Hargrave to our show. Welcome, Dr. Hargrave.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Well, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for having us. So, a lot of times people have lots of things in their bio, like you do, and people are not quite sure what they are. So, can we maybe just start with what is a geriatric psychiatrist?
Well, the geriatric psychiatrist, is a subdivision of adult psychiatry. I mean, I see folks, basically adults from 18 to whenever. But to have a particular focus on geriatrics or people older over 60 really involves incorporating and being attuned to managing chronic health issues. That's probably one of the biggest things that makes it a little bit different from dealing with younger folks. So, so many older adults have ongoing issues with high blood pressure, diabetes. They, may have cancer and wind up in hospital. So how do you understand what the effects of the illness is, and how does that interface with their previous mental health history and the family that's around them? So it's a real special focus on the combination of chronic health issues and also mental health issues and how they impact older adults. And often this is an area that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, so it's hard to develop and access resources for that group of folks because there hasn't been as much emphasis on it in the general medical community. But I think that's definitely changing. There's much more of a push to look at preventative health issues. So again, it's not just dealing with chronic illness. It's also how can we age in a more healthy and spiritually fulfilling way.
Yes, that's great, and that fits right in with what our platform of our show, which is about generational health and looking at every single generation and how we can impact the health of that particular generation to really help to end the cycle of premature death. And so that sounds like you're right in line with our general generational health philosophy. But tonight we wanted to kind of talk and focus in on dementia. We have lots of questions and people ask lots of questions and are a lot of confusion around what is dementia. So can you tell us what is dementia?
Well, dementia is an illness. It starts off as a brain disease that tends to evolve as we get older and involves a number of different changes in how we think and how we behave. I think the Alzheimer's Association is a wonderful resource to understand the intricacies of Alzheimer's disease and to find resources. Now, one of the things they've done is look for early warning signs because we are increasingly trying to intervene early if signs do occur. So I think what most people think of is dementia is you forget things, and that definitely is part of it. Things that you used to be able to forget, and it's more than forgetting your keys. It's not only forgetting your keys, but forgetting how to backtrack what you're doing to actually find the keys. And there may be multiple things that you forget to do. So the memory problems are probably the hallmark as it occurs in older adults. Another thing that comes up in terms of a warning sign is having difficulty planning, like not being able to do things like plan for a vacation or sort out what do you need to buy at the store. So difficulty in planning is another sort of early situation. I know this was an issue with both of my parents, and what I noticed with my dad is when I would come to visit him in DC, there would be all sorts of notes around the house, written notes about things that he needed to do that day. Now, he'd always been a list maker, but when we're talking about Post-it notes on the refrigerator, in the car, that was a substantial change in how he had operated before. So he was aware of it and was trying to modify his behavior to sort of take that into account. So it's both changes in memory, changes in planning. A third one, which is a common one, is having difficulty completing daily tasks, like remembering to shower, remembering to eat, remembering to shop. Those are things we kind of take for granted. But if we're starting to have trouble with memory, if we're feeling more tired and run down as this illness progresses, we will not be able to do things. We will not take out the trash. So again, sort of daily activities that you could actually do on a regular basis without any prompting, that sort of goes down. And if someone lives with another person who is not suffering from dementia, they may take up the slack. So somebody from the outside won't even know that this is going on because they have a helper who's managing things. But if they live alone, that's probably when you see it much more often. Last two things, which are really common early warning signs, are confusion, like not remembering the time, as in, I don't remember that it's, what is today? Today's Thursday. But
Right.
not only the time, the day, but also getting confused about the year. And sometimes it's not something that comes up in common conversation, what year it is or who the president is. But if that person goes to their doctor and the doctor is concerned about their ability to manage, then those questions will be asked, like what year is it? What month is it? Who's the president? And it's surprising how in a casual conversation, those questions don't come up. And so you might not even recognize that there's a problem there. But if you ask the person specifically, who's the president, they will say, it's some guy. And I'll say, well, what's the last president you remember? Well, there's Nixon, and they will not remember anybody in between. So not all these signs are that evident because it doesn't come up in common conversation, but it will come up in a very focused interview by a healthcare professional. Finally, the last one, which I think is not recognized again quite as much, is trouble recognizing or judging distance. And again, I'm going to use my family again as an example. I sort of knew that something had really drastically changed when I came home to visit in DC, and I saw that the rear view mirror on the driver's side was taped up. There was duct tape. And I asked my dad about it because there was a very narrow driveway he'd have to back down. I mean, I couldn't drive backwards on that today, but he had for decades been able to do that without any problem. But clearly he'd had difficulty navigating that backwards or that reverse in his car and during the daylight. And at that point, I knew that it really was something that was significant. So those are the kinds of things that are some of the early signs of dementia. Some of them are relatively obvious if you see the person every day, but others are much more subtle, and it evolves over time.
Oh, yeah, those are great. Those are really great tips to kind of get some early signs of dementia. Now, in the beginning, you mentioned dementia, and then you also mentioned Alzheimer's. Are those two things the same?
Well, dementia is sort of the umbrella term for sort of progressive memory loss and changes in function. So I say it's sort of like music is one overriding term, but then you have jazz, you have rock, you have R&B.
Right.
For dementia, you have Alzheimer's disease, you may have stroke or vascular related dementia. You may have dementia related to other health issues like Lewy body disease. So there are many different forms of dementia that have different origins, and also the symptoms may be a little bit different. But Alzheimer's is a form of dementia, and it is the most common form of dementia.
Does it matter in terms of sort of treatment and prognosis, which of those types of dementia you have? And I love that analogy, by the way, of music and then the different genres. But does it matter? Like if I say I have dementia, should I know if I have a specific type of dementia, or does it really matter?
I think it's very important to know which type of dementia that you have or the person you're taking care of has, because it does make a huge difference. I mean, we have probably the greatest knowledge base and the greatest amount of treatment interventions for Alzheimer's because it is the most common. But for other forms of dementia, like stroke-related dementia, those medications may not be as effective. But dealing with the underlying causes for the strokes, that may be the most important thing that you can do. And the course of the illnesses is different. Alzheimer's tends to have a kind of slow, progressive course, whereas stroke-related dementia, you may have a real change in a person's ability to function, and then there may be a period where things don't really change. But if they have another stroke, there will quickly be a change. So we're talking about a kind of stepwise progression in the severity of the illness, as opposed to a smoother progression in the illness. And in most cases, Alzheimer's patients tend to live longer. So there's a lot of differences.
Okay. So what can we do now before we get to that point to kind of help prevent dementia? Are there things we can do?
Yeah, right now the preventative aspects of dementia is really at the top of the line, and it's coming more partly out of a public health perspective, because it's by the time you've gotten dementia, there are things that you can do to help with family and support, but the door is open and the horse is gone. So we're really looking at what can we do to improve people's health and aging. I think the preventable risk factors, the coexisting illnesses that people have, how well they are managed really does not only seem to have some effect on the incidence of dementia, but even if you do have progressive memory loss, as the illness progresses, you do better. That's basically it. So if you have high blood pressure that doesn't get treated, it will make that progression of dementia worse. And there are a number of things that we as African Americans have in terms of chronic health issues that put us at greater risk. And those are really where we're addressing most of the interest in trying to deal with the risk factors and the coexisting conditions. And sort of at the top of the list, high blood pressure. So if you can, as early on as possible, really be aware of what is going to help with your high blood pressure. And sure, the pills help, but then there's what we keep talking about, exercise and diet. Yeah. Those are, huge ones. So again, you can increase your resilience and increase your brain capacity in the face of high blood pressure if you're at the appropriate weight, if you're staying away from foods that are going to make things worse. All those things that we love. I just got back from Louisiana, and Lord knows you can get tempted into all kinds of stuff as soon as you hit Bourbon Street. I mean, I was thinking I was there no more than 3 hours, and I already had changed my eating routine. I was there with the grits and the bacon and the biscuits. I mean, I don't usually eat that stuff during the day, but it's so tempting, and it's food that I grew up with coming from DC. But so thinking really a lot about healthy eating, also things like sleep. We are now more and more understanding that sleep is a necessity for brain health, that your body needs some time to clear away all the debris that's happened during the day, and that means getting good sleep. So again, hypertension, sleep problems, those are two big ones that we have a lot of information about. And it goes directly to speak to brain health and wellness. Alcohol, that's a third one, because alcohol kills brain cells. Alcohol kills brain cells. Now, there's debate back and forth about how much you can safely drink, but if you're drinking on top of being overweight, having high blood pressure, having a history of memory problems, you really got to think about, is it worth it? Is that extra drink worth it?
Right.
Those are some of the lifestyle issues that we talk about. Now, some of the other things that we are really encouraging people to do is to think about learning, thinking about keeping your brain active throughout the course of your life. Because one of the things we have noticed is that people who tend to keep their brains active, they have what we call cognitive reserve, or they have brain cells that are so active and remain so vital that even as the illness progresses, they tend to do better. And it may mean something as simple as reading on a regular basis, joining a book club, playing bid whist, or playing chess, but anything that writing is a wonderful way of doing it. And again, these things are really being recognized by brain health specialists, and people are coming together to find ways to really do that. So keeping your brain healthy. Finally, two of the other things that are sort of we didn't think about a whole lot, hearing loss. Hearing loss as a predictor of worsening cognitive performance or memory is really a key one. Is that what we've really noticed is that people who have hearing problems tend not to interact quite as much. They get more withdrawn, and it sort of helps that deterioration of thinking and memory and interacting with other people, because they're basically their hearing shuts them off from outside influences. The last one I want to speak on is actually connections with other people. Social connectedness is kind of a key part of not only how you feel emotionally and spiritually, but it also keeps your brain active because you are interfacing with other people. So these are things that I think are some people think it's difficult to do that in our kind of urban settings. But in the old days, when everybody sort of lived together or close to each other, you were part of a community. And there was no television, so you were reading the newspaper. Like my dad was a big newspaper reader or magazine reader for forever, and he and my mother were both involved in church activities, and they had family close by who would check on them. It was kind of built into their life. Now we have to think about it in a very a very thoughtful way about
Right.
how do we continue to have those connections and have those influences throughout our life. And again, it's difficult to change behaviors in the later in life. So the earlier you start thinking about brain health, the same way you think about heart health, the easier it will be to continue those things as you get older.
Wow, those are really, really great tips. Thank you so much. You had me worried there. I have to say, I'm going to go. I need to start reading a little bit more. I read a lot actually as it is, but it's good to know that hopefully I'll have some reserve when
Yes.
I get a little bit older.
And don't forget exercise. Got to read,
Yes.
but also the exercise.
Yes, definitely exercise. So one of the things I want to ask you about, I know a lot of people ask about, is the genetics of dementia. Mom may have had dementia or grandmother may have had dementia. Does that put, me at a higher risk for getting dementia if someone else in my family has also had dementia?
I know there's been a lot of interest in trying to determine what are going to be predictors of developing dementia. And I think one of the simplest and most straightforward ways of looking at that is looking at genetics, because the science is actually there. Now, there are a couple of genetic markers for dementia that happens in older adults that do seem to make the risk much more likely for African Americans. But that doesn't mean that just because your parents had dementia, that they may have had dementia for other reasons. They may have had high blood pressure that wasn't managed. I forgot to mention diabetes. So there is a genetic risk, but the other determinants, the other influences also have a major impact, particularly for African Americans.
Yeah. And I think, what you said, exercise and diet, we talk about that a lot on this show. We have a food of the month that we really encourage people to eat healthy. And this month it's avocado.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So lots of good, healthy fat. So it's really important. And I want people to understand that everything is connected. So the exercise, we talk about our brain as if it's independent of the rest of our body, but it doesn't. And clearly, even in dementia, how your blood pressure, how your diabetes, how those things are controlled also impacts your brain. So that's great to hear. Now, you're involved in a really interesting pilot with UC Davis called the Good Life Program. Can you talk a little bit about what that program is and what it is that you're attempting to look at?
So the Good Life Program is a great place to start if you want to make those kinds of changes to help with overall brain health. So what we say is, the Good Life helps you make better food choices. It encourages greater exercise. It helps you expand your social network, and it also feeds your soul. So it really gets to the core of the things that we know will improve brain health. And it's really an effort to provide a structured way for African American older adults to actually take advantage of those things. So it's partly a study, but it's also a health and wellness program it's been going on for about a year and a half now. And they're going to be looking at how people who engage in the good life, what happens with them, both in terms of their heart health and their brain health. And it runs in sort of 3-month cycles. Now, it was initially arranged to occur in person, and it's centered out of Oakland. So there was a plan to have, in-person cooking shows, that there'd be walks and exercise routines that people would engage in, and that they would have ongoing social contact. Now, because of COVID, it is now all online. So they have segments that are specific to food. So there is a cooking segment, and you learn about great recipes, and a lot of it is by local chefs who will talk about, what foods are on sale and available in your neighborhood. So they will assume that you have access to healthy foods, and you may have to look for them, but they take what's in season and they create simple recipes, and it's a lot of fun. Everybody wants to know how to cook a good meal quickly. So that's really at the top of the list. Now, there's also an exercise program, which happens 3 times a week, that people can engage in. And there's an exercise coach who, again, helps you think about how do you repeat this exercise routine. You can do it at home. You can do it through video, and people comment on it. And finally, there actually are, groups that talk about social issues. How do you manage stress? How do you get a better night's sleep? So it attempts to get at all the things that we were talking about in terms of improving brain health in a really fun way. And we can't wait until COVID goes underground so that we can all get together and do this in person. But it's really been dramatic, and we have had an incredible amount of success getting men to do this. It's unbelievable. I mean, I was just talking to the director the other day, and it's the number of participants has tripled in terms of men. And you know how hard it is to get men to pay attention to their health, but I think it's hitting at a good time. I think the good life, we want it, and it's in connection with the city of Oakland, and we would love to be able to repopulate this across the country. But I think it comes at a time when there has been so much more media attention to health for older adults, and particularly for African Americans. I mean, from Oprah to Gayle King, all of them have been on these platforms that have talked about what it means to have a healthy life and what you can do to empower people to do it. So we've hit it at a very good time. So we're getting a lot of support, and more people joining every day.
So is it open for people to join?
Yes, it's completely open. It's completely free. There's basically 3-month cohorts of 3-month segments that happen. So they re-enroll every 3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Well, we will make sure to give that information to people if they are interested in enrolling, the phone number, and I'm assuming there's probably an email and a website with information.
Yes.
And so we will put that on at the end of the show. So stay tuned, and we'll have that available for you if you're interested in enrolling in the Good Life program. It sounds great. I'm going to see if my husband wants to enroll. So I know you were saying older Americans, right? Older folks. What is that age? Like, what's older?
Well, I push it out every 5 years. But I think 60 is sort of what has been that's a number that's put out there. But I think for us as African Americans, our health issues, our stress, all of those things weigh on us even earlier in life. So right. I'm basically telling anybody who's over 45,
okay,
it's coming down the pike. You need to think about it. You need to make changes, adjustments. It just is. So, but technically it's 60, but I think it's never too early, and it's never too late, because that's the other thing we're finding out. Even people who start to make health changes in their 70s, in their 80s, it has an impact. So it's never too early and never too late.
That's great. That is great to hear. Okay, so you guys, this Good Life program, I'm signing up. Dr. Hargrave, if you see me, don't laugh, because I'm gonna be there.
I'll be there with you for sure.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit. You talked about some of the things that we can do to limit and decrease our risk of dementia. But let's say we get diagnosed with dementia. Are there any things that we can do to sort of slow the progression of the disease?
Again, I think the first thing, if you have some concerns based on the warning signs that you may have dementia, that somebody close to you has dementia, the first thing to do is to go to your doctor, because this is a diagnosis that involves, physical exams, taking blood tests, maybe taking memory tests, looking at the medications that somebody has. So you need to start with that person's doctor. And when you go to the doctor, this is a second thing, especially in our current healthcare system where there isn't a whole lot of FaceTime. In fact, most of this may well be through Zoom meetings. It may not even be in person. That when you plan that visit with your doctor, have your questions already written down, the things that you have seen, the things that you're concerned about, so that you are clear about what your questions are and you are able to be sure that those questions get answered. So go to your doctor, ask the questions, also have the information that is helpful to them, because so many of us are seeing maybe one or two different doctors. Maybe we're getting things from pharmacies or non-prescribed medications. So to have that list of your current medications. And the third thing is to take a friend. Because when you get overwhelmed when you go to the doctor, everybody gets nervous when they go to the doctor. So even if the doctor has the time to explain things to you, there's a good chance you'll only remember about 10% of it. So we encourage people to take a friend, take questions, take a list of your medicines, and take a friend. Those are three things that are really important. Also, if you do get that diagnosis or it looks like dementia, I would say you really need to contact the UC Davis Alzheimer's Disease Center. You may not have dementia, but you may have other things that are leading to dementia. And that's where you can get the kind of comprehensive assessment that takes some time. But that they are the people who are the experts in teasing out some of the issues, particularly for African Americans. And finally, just for general information, to put all this together and to have resources, say in the middle of the night, if you have a question in the middle of the night, the Alzheimer's Association, www.alz.org, because they have a lot of information on their website. They give seminars, and they have a 24-hour-a-day hotline for questions. So those would be the things that I would say can help you feel really well prepared for your doctor visits, that can give you resources and contacts after that visit.
Wow, thank you for those resources. That's great. And we will definitely put those up again at the end of the show so that you can see the websites and the information that Dr. Hargrave just gave. All right, so final question, Dr. Hargrave, and I know you have a book that's soon to be released called Geriatric Mental Health Care Lessons from a Pandemic. What lesson from the pandemic did you learn from the geriatric side?
I think it's what we already knew, but then it's been highlighted. We need more information. We need better resources. And from our end of things, we need more advocacy for resources and support. Because we know there have been problems in terms of people getting access to hospitals, to getting access to medicines, to getting access to healthy food. Now it's time to stop talking. It's time to start doing. So there are a lot of organizations out there that are going to be looking at how can we prepare for the next big health crisis, and you need to be working with them. And we need to have a particular focus on what are the things that we need in our community. And I think this is the time for advocacy. And I always tell people, if you have any kids, grandkids, there is a place for them in healthcare, because we need your energy in your bodies at every stage of healthcare.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Hargrave, we so appreciate you coming on today and just really giving us this information about dementia. I know I learned a lot, and I know that our audience has learned a lot. I'm going to give you a final word. Anything else that you would like to tell us, to say about our health and anything in general?
Stay healthy, stay happy, stay active.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Hargrave, and thank you for being a part of the Generational Health Network. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
On Talking with Dr. Donna, we focus on 4 pillars of health to help build a generational health network to end the cycle of premature death in the Black community. I created Talking with Dr. Donna as a way to educate as many people as possible and give accurate information from a trusted physician. Go to Talking with Dr. Donna and get accurate information. And then share that information with your family and friends. And if you like what you see, like my channel and subscribe. Remember, every Thursday, keep your